So it's my great pleasure to introduce you the second speaker of this morning, Professor Lionel Rosier from Université du Littoral, Côte d'Opale, France. And the title of his talk is Exact Controllability Results of Anisotropic 1D Equations in the Space of Analytic Functions. Lionel, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Marcelo, for this very nice introduction. So I would like first to thank the organizer for their kind invitation and for giving me the opportunity to present this work. So it's a joint work with many people, actually. So first, Mo Chen, Mrs. Mo Chen from Northeast Normal University, Chengchun in China. And also Camille Laurent from Laboratoire Jacques Lyons in Sorbonne University in Paris, in France. Next, Philippe Martin from Centre Automatique et Système at Mines ParisTech in Paris. Ivan Riva from Universidad del Valle, Cali in Colombia. And finally, Pierre Rouchon from Centre Automatique et Système, Mines ParisTech, Paris. Okay, and so my talk will be about some exact controllability result for nonlinear PDEs in dimension 1. And so we will consider at the end of this talk anisotropic 1D equation, but we will start with a very simple equation like the heat equation in the beginning. So my lecture will be outlined as follows. So I will start with some introduction. So I will introduce the concept of controllability, of null controllability, of reachable states. Next, I will consider the reachable states for the heat equation in dimension 1. So I will present the result we obtained with Philippe Martin and Pierre Rouchon 4 years ago. And I will also present other results obtained very recently this year and that actually are sharp. So I think that they are very beautiful results, so I will present them. Next, I will switch to some exact controllability result for a sublinear heat equation, still in dimension 1. So it's these are results that I obtained with Camille Laurent. I will also consider the problem of the reachable states for the linear KdV equation. And these are also results with Philippe Martin, Pierre Rouchon, and Ivan Riva. Next, reachable states, I will give some reachable states for the linear Zakharov-Kuznetsov equation. And it's sort of extension of generalization of the result for KdV, but to some model in dimension 2, to some PDE in dimension 2 for the space. And it is a joint work with Mo Chen. And finally, okay, I will conclude this talk with some result for anisotropic 1D equation. And actually the last part could see as something that contains all the previous part. Okay, so this is for the outline of this talk. So let us begin with some introduction. So I will be very general at the beginning. So let us assume that we consider some PDEs that is written in the form P of D applied to Z equals 0, where D is a notation for minus I D over T, minus I D over dx1, and so on. So just a notation for derivative of order 1. And so we apply to this some polynomial function, and so we obtain a linear PDEs in Z. The time variable is denoted by T, the space variable is denoted by X, and at least in the tradition, we assume that X belongs to some open set omega, which is smooth and house bounded, and it is so a subset of Rn, some open set, of course, of Rn. And we will denote by gamma a part of the boundary of omega, capital omega, and it will be the set on which, where we will put the control. So in our system, there's the first equation, I could use the most. So the first equation is the PDE that is written in very general way, just for the introduction. Of course, I will consider after a specific equation. So the second equation represents the boundary control that is applied to our system, and the control is assumed to be supported on gamma, which is a part of the boundary. It could be small, actually. The third equation is concerned with other boundary conditions that are homogeneous. It means that for this boundary condition, we have no control. And of course, interesting control problem contains, in general, homogeneous boundary condition. And the last equation is just the initial condition. Okay, so this is just to introduce our problem. So what is the exact controllability? So I think it's well known by everybody, but just I will just pass a few lines to recall you, to remind you what it means. So we say that our big system is exactly controllable in some space H, in time t, capital T, if for any initial data Z naught and every final data Z1 in the space H, one can find a control input U, such as the solution of our system. So with the initial data Z naught satisfies Z at capital T, at time capital T is Z1. So we can pass from Z0 to Z1 in time capital T by a convenient choice of the control U. Unfortunately, for many equations, we cannot have this kind of very good properties, at least in the energy space L2. And so we can be forced to relax this condition and just to assume that at the time capital T, the final state is not Z1, but just 0. So if we have this property for any Z naught and for Z1 equals 0, we say in that case that we have the null controllability. Okay, so the exact controllability is known to be true, of course, for the wave equation or for Schrödinger equation, and the null controllability is known to be true for the heat equation or Navier-Stokes equation. So let us have a look at the linear heat equation or the semi-linear heat equation. So the heat equation is just written in black. So it's theta T minus delta of theta equals 0. So it's a classical linear heat equation and that we consider in dimension n. So assume that we put one control, U, as a boundary, actually, which is supported in gamma, and that we start from theta 0. Okay, so we can have a look at the above problem, the exact controllability problem or the null controllability problem. So for the exact controllability problem in L2, there is no chance to get anything because of the smoothing effect, of course. But okay, we can have some hope to obtain some null controllability result, and it is actually true that we have this kind of result. And it was actually proved by Lebeau-Robiano in 1995 and by Fursikov-Imanulov in 1996. And actually, it was written in blue because Fursikov and Imanulov obtained the result even if we had nonlinear terms. So actually, we have the null controllability or the controllability to trajectory for a nonlinear heat equation. So this is true actually for any time capital T and for any control region gamma. So for this kind of equation, so the geometry does not come into play. So it's and to prove this, actually, it's quite technical. You imagine, because there was almost no assumption about capital omega and no assumption about gamma. So you have to pay at some place. And actually, to prove this kind of result, Fursikov and Imanulov introduced what they called a Kalman estimate of parabolic type. And typically for the heat equation, if you drop these blue nonlinear terms, what you have to prove is this kind of estimate. Well, this estimate looks quite complicated, but actually it's sort of energy estimate in which you can estimate V together with first and second order derivative by means of both some observation of V on a part on the boundary, actually on gamma, and also with operator applied to V. Actually, it's not the it operator, but it is a joint of this operator. Okay, but so with these two information, you can recover, you can have estimate on V, Vt, nabla of V, and the Laplacian of V. Of course, you have to put some weight because you see that in this estimate, you don't have any influence of the initial data. And so for this to be true, you have to put some weight. And so the weights are quite complicated, but so they were introduced by Fursikov and Emanuilov. And so they are given at this part of the slide, at the bottom of the slide. Okay, and so with this quite complicated choice of the weight, we have this estimate. And after, well, now it's classical machinery, you can derive the null contability of the heat equation or of the nonlinear heat equation. Okay. Okay, so in some sense, for the null contability, everything, almost everything was done. So at this time, in the 19th, by Lebor-Robiano or Fursikov, Emanuilov. Okay. Okay, but it does not tell you exactly what are the states that you can reach. So if you start from one state, for instance, from 0, okay, what are the states that you can reach? You don't have any indication of the states that you can reach if you use this kind of tools. So to be precise, so we introduce the notion, the concept of reachable state. So to simplify the exposition, consider first the heat equation in dimension 1, the linear heat equation in dimension 1. So it is this equation, theta t minus theta x, x equals 0. And we work on the interval minus 1, 1. And we should say that a state theta 1 is reachable from 0 in time capital T for the heat equation. If you can pick, you can find some control input H0 and H1, such that when in L2, say, so that if you apply this boundary condition at x equal minus 1 and at x equal 1, starting from 0 to simplify the exposition, then you arrive at the at theta 1 in time capital T. Okay, so theta 1 is reachable in some sense from 0 by using this kind of control. So this issue actually has been investigated at the same time as the exact controllability by Fattorini and Russell in their very famous paper in 1971. So I remind you that they obtained very precise result for the exact controllability by using moment method and a complex analysis. And also they provided some possible reachable space, but they were not sharp, as we shall see. And okay, their results were expressed in terms of the Fourier coefficient of the terminal state. Okay, so what we want to do is to improve actually the whole result obtained by Fattorini and Russell. So at this time, for instance, they are not able to prove that polynomial functions are reachable. Actually, they are, but they were not able to do that. So, of course, there was a big margin of progress. And so let us first look at the results we obtained by that I obtained with Philippe Martin and Pierre Rouchon. It was in 2016. And so we have to introduce some notation. So we assume that you have two controls, one at x equal minus 1 and another one at x equal 1. So you have two boundary control. And so I did not by whole of omega. All of omega is the set of complex analytic function in the open domain capital omega, which is some subset of the complex plane. Okay, so all is for holomorphic, so you could call this function holomorphic or complex analytic the same. And okay, they are defined on some set big omega, which is a subset of C. So the result we obtained is the following. So it was a way to characterize in some sense reachable states, and actually we proved that the space of reachable states was sandwiched between two spaces. this is what we obtain. And I will try to explain you what we obtain at this time. So the first condition is sufficient condition. So assume that θ1, so θ1 is the target function, the function that you want to reach starting from 0. If this function is holomorphic in the ball, centered at 0 and with radius capital R, when R is larger than R naught, which is given by this explicit constant, which is very close to 1.2, then θ1 can be reached from 0 in any time capital T. Okay, so this domain is actually the domain which is in blue in this picture. So it's a ball with a radius slightly larger than 1. And so what we say is that, okay, you have a function θ1 which is defined between -1 and 1. Actually, it can be extended as some complex analytic function on this blue ball. In that case, if it is true, then you can reach it by using two boundary controls. This is also a sufficient condition. And we have at the same time a necessary condition. So assume that you have a state that you can reach by using two boundary control, then necessarily this state θ1 can be extended as some holomorphic function on the wet square. This is what we prove also. Actually, the last property was more or less known in the literature for a very long time, but well, we pointed it in this context, and of course it was important for our problem. And so okay, if your function is complex analytic on the ball, the blue ball, you can reach it, and conversely, if you can reach your state θ1, then it can be extended on some holomorphic function on the red square. Of course, you see that there is a gap between the square and the ball. And of course, after we had to reduce the gap between these two sets. So this was for two controls. So this was the result when you apply a control at x equal -1 and x equal 1. You have also a result when you apply a control, only one control. And so I changed slightly the problem. So actually, I consider now the problem for x between 0 and 1. Okay, so I assume that I put some control at x equal 1, and I assume that there is no control at x equal, sorry, so it's mistake. So here it's 0. So h0 is 0. h0 is 0. Okay, so this is 0. So no control at 0, and one control at x equal 1. Okay. Okay. So we have also a sandwich, sort of sandwich. So we have the following result. So if θ1 again is complex analytic on the blue ball, then you can reach it with only one control applied at x equal 1. And conversely, if you have, and also I had to assume that θ1 is odd. And conversely, if you have a state which is reachable with only one control at x equal 1, then it has to be odd. And also it could be extended as some holomorphic function on the wet square. So this was the result we obtained. So a few remarks. Actually, in our analysis, we have to use functions that are Gevrey of order S. So I remind you the definition that we have adopted in this work. So we say that the function of time for t in the interval 0 capital T is Gevrey of order S when R is non-negative. If there exists constants C and R that are strictly positive, such that the derivative yn of t is less than c factorial of n to the s divided by r to the n for any t and any n. Okay, what is important is the s. So the Gevrey regularity s is the exponent of this term. Okay. Okay, so we can be a little bit more precise in the statement of our result. So for the sufficient parts, that is when we have a function which is analytic on a ball. So the controls that we can construct actually were Gevrey of order 2. So they are not only L2 control, there are actually controls that are very smooth, they are infinitely smooth, and actually they are algebraic of order 2. And it turns out for the heat equation, in some sense, the regularity is in space corresponding to analytic function, gives a regularity in time, which correspond to function algebra of order 2. So it's very natural, actually, for this kind of problem. Okay, and something which is also important, that this sort of reachability result actually is much better than the classical controllability to the trajectories. So this is something important. It's a real improvement compared to all the classical result of controllability to 0 or controllability to the trajectories. Because when you have a controllability to trajectories, you have at the final time, in general, a steady state, which is algebraic of order 1/2. So function algebra of order 1/2 actually are complex analytic on the whole plane C. There are no poles, so they are analytic up to infinity in some sense. And it turns out actually the reachable states that we reach are actually only complex analytic on a bounded set. So they could have pole, not far from 0. So the space of reachable states that we obtain is much larger than the steady states that you consider in general for the controllability to the trajectory. So it's a real improvement. And to prove this, so at this time we use two tools, the so-called flatness approach and also a Borel-Ritz theorem that we had to establish. So I just tell you a few words about what we call the flatness property. So typically what you consider is a system like this. So you have the heat equation and you consider two boundary conditions at x equals 0 and no boundary condition, no initial condition. Okay, so nothing for t equals 0, but you have two boundary conditions at x equals 0. So this is what we call in general an ill-posed problem. Okay, it's an ill-posed problem. But actually, if you are given a yt in some reasonable space, you can prove that you have existence and uniqueness of a solution of this system. And the good space is precisely provided by the space of functions that are algebraic of order 2. And we obtain something which is good because in some sense, there is no loss in the constant. So you assume that y is algebraic of order 2, and actually more precisely that it has the following estimate for the derivative in time. So yi of t is less than some constant m times 2i factorial divided by r to the 2i. Then you have some explicit representation given by this series of the solution of this ill-posed problem. So this is very simple in some sense because the solution is given in some explicit way in terms of y and its derivative. And in the terminology of automatic control, we could say that y is some output, some measurement of the trajectory. And actually, it is flat in the sense that you can represent the solution in terms of only this measurement, only of this output by considering this series. So this is what we call the flatness property. Okay. Well, it turns out it's very simple, but unfortunately, in the nonlinear case, we don't have such a representation. It's much more complicated. And although we need some Borel-Ritz theorem, which tells you the following. So we consider if you consider any sequence an of real number, you know by the classical Borel theorem that you can find some infinitely smooth function whose derivative at 0 are precisely the number an. Here we have some quantification, so we assume that the number an are bounded by this way, by constant c times 2n factorial divided by r to the 2n. Then you can solve this problem of interpolation. So you can find a function f which is infinitely smooth and such that all the derivatives at 0 are this number an. But what is important is that you have also estimate for the derivative of f at time t that are close to 0. And we have almost the same behavior as the coefficient nn I say almost because actually we have a small loss. We have to divide by R0. And okay, this is the explanation of the presence of this number in the statements of our result. So there is a small loss here. And to prove this, actually, we have to work a lot, and we were inspired by the paper of Pech in 1988. So this result was recently improved, and then it is very nice to know that now we have a sharp result. So it was improved first by Dardet and Hervedoza in 2018, when they proved that, okay, if you consider that θ1 actually can be extended as some holomorphic function on the ball, no, sorry, on the square, which is slightly larger than the above one. So, okay, I did not make a picture, but so we have the square that appear here, and you slightly enlarge it, okay? And so you obtain this, this square here. So you introduce some epsilon, which is strictly positive. So in that case, okay, you can reach your target state θ1 with two controls that are in L2. And a few times later, so there was some improvement by Hartmann, Kelly, and Tixnat in this paper, and they proved, so they introduced two spaces. So the first one is the Bergman space. So the Bergman space is the space of functions that are complex, holomorphic on omega, and at the same time in L2, so square integrable, okay? So it is denoted by A2 of omega. And so they prove that if a state is reachable with the control in L2, then it has to belong to A2. So the improvement with respect to our result, that they prove that the function has to be square integrable on omega. And conversely, so you introduce a very close space in sense, which is a so-called Hardy-Smirnov space of function theta in A2, for which the trace is in L2 of the boundary, and also that for which we have this kind of condition on the boundary. And so they prove that if this, if θ1 is in this space A2 of omega, then you can reach it with two controls in L2. So the improvement is that the domain of analyticity is the square. Okay, it is a square. You don't need to have a larger square or to have a ball. It is the same square. But okay, in this result, okay, they have to make this additional assumption. And now the sharp result obtained probably last year, but the result will probably appear this year or next year. It was obtained by Hartmann and Orsoni, and it tells use the following thing. So you consider still the heat equation, theta t minus t at x equals 0 for x between -1 and 1, and you consider two boundary conditions at x equal -1 and x equal 1, and you will take boundary control in L2. You still introduce the square that was in red in my previous slide. So the final result, the sharp result, is that the reachable space is precisely the Bergman space A2 of omega, which is the space of holomorphic function on omega that are square integrable. And it is a sharp result, okay? Okay, so actually there was some intermediate result by Orsoni and by Tixnat, Normand, and Kelly, where they obtain some characterization of the reachable space, but in terms of the intersection of two Bergman spaces on bound. It was a little bit complicated, but okay, now you have a very simple formulation, and okay, and this is a sharp result. And to prove this, they use a theory of reproducing kernel Hilbert space. This is the first part important in this proof, and also some additional tool from complex analysis called separation of singularities and in Bergman space. So it's quite technical. It uses a lot of actually of complex analysis and also result like a Paley-Wiener. So you have a link with Fourier analysis at the same time, and with this two domains, complex analysis and Fourier analysis, okay, they were able to prove this sharp result. And they obtained also a result similar with only one control. So in some sense, okay, now the issue is completely solved, completely understood. But it is only for this equation. So if you make perturbation with the potential, actually the thing is almost completely open, actually. So the issue is still open. So, okay, now we will have a look at the problem of the reachable states when precisely we introduce some perturbation, and actually we are interested in introducing a nonlinear perturbation. And so I will tell you what we obtain in a joint work with Camille Laurent, published in Annals of Institut Henri Poincaré Analyse non linéaire in 2020. So the problem we consider is the following. So we look at the heat equation, but you introduce some perturbation, which is not linear. And so f actually will be some analytic function in neighborhood of 0, 0, 0. So it's an analytic in x, y, and the first derivative of y. And okay, so as previously, so you put two boundary control at x equal -1 and at x equal 1. And the issue is, okay, can you provide some exact contractility result, not just a null contractility result or contractility to the trajectories, because these things are known for a very long time, but now we are interested in exact contractility result. And so a classical example of this semi-linear equation are, for instance, the linear equation with analytic potential function phi. And even this is not obvious, actually, because with the very nice method used by Hartmann and Orsoni, for the moment, we don't have any result for that. Okay, so this is the first step. But also, okay, we can deal with nonlinear problems. So the viscous-Burgers equation, this one, and another instance is the Allen-Kahn equation, which is this one. So our theory applies to all these equations. So we have to make some assumption about f. How many times do I have, Marcelo? Oh. Well, so we assume that f is analytic in all its variable. So and we can write some power expansion of f written this way. And so we make this technical assumption about f, but they are quite reasonable. Okay, so the main result we obtain is the following. So we have to introduce in some sense a space, and we call it R of RC, is the space of function which are defined on the segment -1, 1, and that can be expanded as some power series with this estimate for the coefficient of the series. Okay. So the constant C and R appears this way. So C is it's like the radius of a ball, and R is important to see what is the analyticity domain of the function Y. So the result we obtain is the following. So when R is larger than this constant, which is some explicit constant, and when B2 is also larger than the same constant, if C is small in-house, if we consider initial and terminal state Y01, Y1 in this space, then okay, we can solve the exact contractility problem. So we can construct two control H1, H-1 and H1, which drives the solution of this equation from Y0 to Y1. And actually, the function, the boundary control are in algebra of order 2. So this thing, this theorem is quite technical to prove. I will just try to give you the idea, the structure of the proof. So we have to investigate a Cauchy problem in X, and this is what we have to do instead of the flatness property. And it's not easy at all because it is not linear. So you have to be very careful. Actually, there was some paper devoted to this kind of problem, but in most of them, they only provided local results. That is, that the results were true for X close to 0, very small. And so the issue was to obtain a result that is true for all x in the domain -1, 1. And the new ingredient that we have to introduce is a investigation of the relationship between what we call the jet. The jet are actually the set of the old derivative, okay? So the jet in time is the set of the derivative, all the derivative of y, so for n equals 0 to infinity. And also we have to take one derivative in x of this jet. So this is what I call the jet in time, so the set of all the derivative in time, and also the set of all the derivative in space. And we have to make to investigate the relationship between both. So for the first part, so we can, of course, state a precise result. So we consider, so this ill-posed problem, and so we assume that G naught and G1 are initial boundary data that are given. And so what we assume that they are algebra of order 2, and more precisely that they fulfill this kind of estimate when R is quite larger, actually larger than 4. And so we prove that with this assumption, we can indeed construct a solution of this nonlinear problem, which is defined for all the x between -1 and 1. And actually, y is algebra of order 1 in time and of order 2 in, of order 1 in space and of order 2 in time. And to prove this, we have to use a scale of Banach space of algebraic function, not only one Banach space, but a scale, a family of Banach space to make it. Okay, so after that, we have to do the second step, the jet analysis. So just to have some idea, for the linear heat equation, of course, one derivative in time is correspond to two derivatives in space. And when you iterate, n derivative in time correspond to 2n derivative in space. Okay? Okay, and you have that. Well, of course, in the nonlinear case, it's much more complicated. And so you don't have this kind of relation. But you can still have a one-to-one correspondence between this jet and this jet. And it's not easy actually to prove, but we can prove it. And the difficulty, of course, is that you have to consider derivative up to infinity. So we can quantify the above result. Okay, it's possible to quantify it. I will not give the details. Okay, maybe I have to pass to. I will skip this part because I don't have any time to pass. So I will maybe switch to the last part. Okay, so just give a few ideas of the last part that we did. Okay, so we consider what we call an isotropic equation. So it is an equation of this form, actually, where you have n derivative in time and m derivative in space, where n is less than m. So for this equation, so we say that it is an isotropic in the sense that you have more derivative in space than in time. So of course, the wave equation is not concerned by this kind of problem. So classical examples are KdV, Boussinesq, the good or the bad, the Ginzburg-Landau equation, and the Kuramoto-Sivashinsky equation. And what is important is the result that we have obtained, that it is true even if the equations are not well posed forward in time. So, for instance, our result applies to the bad Boussinesq equation for which you don't have solution for positive time. Okay, so similarly to the heat equation, you have to introduce this space of functions that are analytic. Actually, you can relate this space to the RD space, H infinity R, which is a space of holomorphic functions on a ball that are at the same time bounded on the same ball. So we have this sandwich for all this space. So we consider boundary condition at x equals 0. So we can have many boundary conditions because we have m derivative in x. And so we introduce a matrix B. And if we consider the vector yx partial x to the minus m to the m minus 1 y, so it's a partial jet. Okay, so we assume that B applied to yx at x equals 0 equals 0. So this set of condition is represents the homogeneous boundary condition at x equals 0. So it means the condition for which we don't have any control. So at x equals 0, we don't have any control, but we can have many boundary conditions. And of course, the control corresponds to the remaining condition at x equals 1, and the number of control is precisely capital M minus mu. Okay. So we have to introduce some compatibility set. It's quite difficult to define, but we can make it. The idea is that as we have this homogeneous boundary condition for y, you can take derivative of this condition with respect to t, and of course you will have this condition. Okay. Okay, and so we introduce this compatibility set that we had actually for the heat equation or for KdV. You have this set which is quite complicated and which involves nonlinear equation. And okay, just the result that you obtain at the end. So you introduce lambda, which is m over n, which is a number which is larger than 1. It is a Gevrey regularity. And so the main result we obtain with Camille Laurent and Yvonne Riva is that okay, if you consider this anisotropic equation with homogeneous boundary condition at x equals 1, then you have some exact contractive result. So in this space, so it is the same as for the heat equation, and you have to intersect with the compatibility condition. Okay. So what remains to be done is to give some explicit value of this constant R part, which appears in the statement of our result. So to conclude, we have first developed the flatness approach, which is quite robust, and it allows us to derive almost sharp set of reachable states for parabolic-like equation. And although it was applied to the KdV equation, but I did not have time to tell it to you. And also it turns that it is also useful for any anisotropic 1D equation. And we obtained by this approach the first instance of an exact contractive result for a semi-linear parabolic equation. It turns out that the flatness approach is also very useful to design efficient numerical scheme for the control of heat equation. So it was developed for linear heat equation, but we expect that also it could be useful for nonlinear heat equation. And we have also obtained with mode chain similar result for the reachable state for the heat equation with a distributed control. So we have also a similar theory for this kind of problem where the control is distributed and not at the boundary. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much, Lionel, for your nice talk, your nice results as well. Now we are open for questions or comments. Oh, there is a question for Luis. How to get the controls from the result?
How to get the control from the result?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So in my result with Philippe Martin and Pierre Rouchon, actually, so it was possible to get explicit control by using the flatness approach and by using the Borel-Ritz theorem, actually, because actually, so we prove that there exists a function f that satisfies this kind of condition, but actually we have some constructive way to get this function f, actually. And so by using this approach, it was possible to get explicit control. But this was with our approach. So for the sharp result obtained by Hartmann and Orsini, so we know that there exists control for which it works. But if I remember well, they prove that actually they prove the surjectivity of some map. But I don't know if they can provide explicitly the control. So of course it depends on the method. When you have the flatness method, flatness approach, it is explicit in some way, it's constructive, but it was not the sharp result. For this sharp result, I'm not sure that the author were able to have some explicit control. Of course, for the nonlinear problem, it's much more complicated, of course, but it's true also when you use the classical fixed point result to prove, for instance, the null controllability of the utility equation, you know that you have some control. You don't have explicit formula. And so the only way to have the control is to do some numerics.
Okay, thank you, Lionel. No more questions, so let's thank the speaker again.
Thank you for your question.